So in the previous video, we went ahead and set up our skeleton, and now we're ready to go ahead and start messing around with the CSS. Now, if you're not familiar with CSS, it's important that you go see the intro to HTML, the CSS video that I have on there. So it'll kind of give you an overview of CSS, so I'm not using this one to actually give the overview of CSS. We're just going to go ahead and dive right into CSS and understand that CSS is going to allow us to manipulate this page and place things exactly where we want to place them. For instance, this part right here, this is the other border, and if you remember in our template, that's supposed to be on the right hand side, but it's not. So we're going to move all these things around using the box model of CSS. And I'm not going into detail with the box model, just understand basically we're using these divs like boxes. And just like I showed in the previous video, we have our content box, let's say, we have our other post box, and we have, let's say, our blog post box. So we can consider these boxes, and they'll be placed in different areas of the website. And the way we're going to place those things is by using CSS. So let's go ahead and do this. In the previous videos, using CSS, we use CSS either inline or we use them inside of the head, inside of a styles tag. We're not going to do that this time. What we're going to do is a more professional way of doing this. And, I say professional in that large applications do it this way, but you can still do it professionally, do it in the same file if the application is small enough. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create what's called a link tag. And a link tag goes inside of the head, and this link tag is going to link to the CSS. So I'm going to go ahead and start typing this, and there's the link tag. Now inside this link tag, I want to put an REL, and that's going to equal style sheet. So a quote there, and I put style. There we go. And then I'm going to put the type is going to be a text CSS. And now I'm going to put the link to this. So I'm going to put this href, and then it's going to be called style. And this right here I don't have yet, .css. So I don't have it yet. So this isn't going to work until I create this file. So this will all work when I create this file. But again, I created this page on the desktop. In order for me to have a full web page going on, I'm going to have to put this inside of a folder. So I'm going to first go ahead and save this. Then I'm going to go to my desktop. And as you can see, it's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder. And I'm going to call this my game website blog.com, and I'm gonna drag this in here. That means this right here is not going to be associated with this anymore because I'm about to move this. So first let me go ahead and I'm gonna X this out. I'm gonna close this here in brackets. I'm gonna drag this inside of here, and now from here what I can do is drag this entire file inside of brackets. So now I'm dealing here with this file. So you can see this index file is inside of here, and that's what I'm dealing with now. The way you can tell also is that the word index here is on the outside, and let me show you something really quick. If I were to take another version of that and drag it in here, and now you'll see the one I just dragged in, you'll see the full length of that because it's on the desktop. So when it's inside of its own folder, you won't see that. I'm going to go ahead and close that. You'll see that I'm inside the one with its own folder. I'm going to get rid of this one so I'm not confused. And then you'll see it just has the name of the folder and then the name of the file itself. So the reason why I did that is so inside this folder, I'm going to double click and go inside this folder. Inside this folder, I'm going to create a style sheet. So every time I create something in here, So I'm going to right click, I'm going to click new file, and I'm going to call that style.css. Now inside this style.css, when I created it here, if you look inside my folder now, you'll see it created a style CSS right here. And because I gave it the extension CSS, it automatically knows that this is a cascading style sheet. So now I can go ahead and start trying this out. So in order to get started, I'm going to go ahead and start off with what will affect the entire page no matter the page. So I'm going to go ahead and put a star there, and I'm always opening and closing my brackets right away. Once I do that, I'm going to say the margins. I'm going to close off the margins. That's going to be 0. And then I go ahead and close that off with a semicolon. Padding 0. And the box sizing, I'm going to make that as border box. So box sizing, border box, and close that off. And go ahead and save that and push this over here a little bit so I can see both of these. I'm going to click on this live preview right here. When I click on this live preview button right here, the web page will open up, and what you'll see is a new window that opens up that actually changes as I change my information here. Inside of my index, this link right here, I'm referencing this style sheet. So whenever we save anything in a style sheet, all our page is referencing this. So we should be able to see the updates as we make changes. So let's go ahead and try this out. Let me try that clear. Remember so I'm gonna go back here. Remember down here I have this clear fix. So I'm gonna go ahead and reference that clear fix. Actually, let me try something with the body. Let's say the body. And then inside the body I want a font family. I'm going to change the font family. And that's going to be HE. Hold on. This font family is going to be HE. There we go. Trying to memorize this one. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I believe I got that right. And then the font size, let's change the font size to, say, like 20 pixels. Now, you automatically, you really should see at this point, with me using brackets, as opposed to using Notepad, by me clicking on this live preview and it opening this thing up, as I'm typing, without me having to refresh, it's showing me the updates of everything that I'm doing while I'm doing it. So it makes things a lot easier to work with this IDE as opposed to working in HTML. Working on Notepad. So let me say, if I'm going to say H1 tags, because I know I have the H1 tags in there. H1 tags I'm going to change the color to the H1 tags, and that color is going to be, we can choose any color we want. Let's choose something like this. And as you can see over here on the right hand side, the color is changed. Now there's a way I can actually do both of these. So if I said H1 tags is that color, and then I wanted H2 tags to be that color also. So you see H1 tags is now that color, H2 tags is that color. But if I wanted both H1 and H2, this is kind of a waste of space. So what I can do is just put a comma here and put H2. And if you watch, when I remove this H2, both of these use this same rule here, as you can see there. So that's like an easier way to do it. And then if you wanted something specific to H1, you can go ahead and call up H1. you call up this H1 tag, and then in here you can change the font size and stuff like that. So let's say if I wanted the font size to be something like 35 pixels, and possibly the margins. And remember, in CSS, the margins is, I'm using this for the bottom area here. It's kind of making space at the bottom. Oops. I want the margin, but I want the bottom margin. And I'm going to make some space at about 20 pixels here. So that way you can see here, I just created 20 pixels on all these H1 tags. I can do the same thing with H2 and make the margin just a little bit less. I'm just going to take this right here and call this H2. And then I'm going to make this a little, I'm not going to make it this big. I'm going to make it a little less, maybe like 25. And then the margins will be about 10. So that looks about good. And let's say over here, I wanted some space over at the top. So I can also go inside of this H2. And instead of saying bottom, I can say top. And make some space at the top, 10 pixels. Now I have space at the top and the bottom of all the H2 tags. And remember, the H2 tags is an HTML tag. So I don't have to put the pound sign or anything like that in front of it because it recognizes the H2 as a class within itself. So now let's check out the main text, and that's going to be the text within here, inside of this part. So if I go back to my HTML, you'll see here I have this class called main text. So I'm going to, let me try to do something with this main text. I'm going to put the dot, and anytime I put a period first, that means class. And then I give it the main text. Say main text. And it has to be the same name as what I have here. So that's the same name, main text. Now I can go ahead and make the rules for the main text. So the rules is I'm going to justify this thing. So I'm going to say text, align, and I'm going to justify it. And I want some space at the bottom. And I'm going to put about 25 pixels. Now obviously you can do whatever you want, but you see we're slowly building this thing up a little bit at a time, making some space, and then we'll start moving things around. The author area, let me see where that is. We'll go back here. This bottom half right here is the author's area. Let me put my name down there. You know what? I'm not even going to put a date there right now because that really doesn't matter. And I'm going to go back here to CSS. Let me check out what I can do with this author area. Also, what I want you to understand is the order of this. The order of this can matter, but in our case, it does not. So don't really worry about the order so much right now. So let's say, put the dot for the class, and I'll call that name. This name here. Let me go back here. This is the name I'm using right now. This is the style I'm making right now. Basically, that author information. I'll go ahead and close that. I'm going to want the font size. I'm going to want the margin, top and left. So I'm going to want the font size, top and left margins. And I want this to float to the left. So I want the font size actually to be 22. And the left is fine. I want the top to be 30. Separate a little bit. And then I'm going to want the, I want it to float so I want it to float to the left. That way it pushes everything over here to the left-hand side. So there is something I'm missing here, and I'm missing a full-on container to hold everything, like everything. Like I have this one right here, which is my blog post. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a container over everything. So I'm gonna go right under the body. I'm gonna add myself another div, and I'm gonna call that container. So this is gonna be the name. It's gonna be a class. Now I'm gonna take this closing area right here, cut it out, and I'm gonna bring it all the way down here to the bottom. I'm gonna paste it down here. So now I have all of this stuff inside a container. Now the reason why I highlighted all of this, so I can hit tab and push it over, so that way this right here is on its own area. It's in its own line, and everything else is indented within it. So now I can take this container, and I'm gonna go to my CSS, and I'm gonna go ahead and create a rule for the container as a whole. And it's a class, so I can hit the dot container and then make my rules. It's the same thing over and over again. So I'm gonna go ahead and type this one out, and then I'm going to pause the video and type the rest out. So this container right here is going to be the width. Remember, this is the overall container for the entire website. So it's not really, it has nothing to do with the margins or anything. It just has to do with, in a way, the stage that I'm gonna be working with. So I'm just gonna say this is gonna be about 1140 pixels. And I think the margin, I'm gonna put a margin in there. And that's gonna be 20 pixels. And then we're gonna do a space, and I'm gonna do auto. And then a space, and that's going to be 0, and then probably, yeah, 0, and then auto. Let's try that. Yeah, that looks about right. That's good. We're coming along here. I might need some space over here. Okay. Okay, so before this video gets too long, I'm gonna go ahead and pause it, and I'm gonna type the rest out. Okay, so here's what I have now. So right under the container, you'll see I have this date class with the position of absolute. Top is 10 pixels and the right is 30 pixels. And it's going to be the size of it. And if you look over here, here it is right here. And that's the right, that's throwing it over here to the right by 30 pixels. And then over here you have this clear fix. And you're going to want to go ahead and copy that down. And then you're going to have this class called blog post. And if you remember on the index, the blog post is going to be this major class right here. When I select this, you'll see that over here how it selects this entire block here, right? So we'll go back here. And then we have this one right here. Now when I select this one, you'll notice, I'm gonna click out, click back in. You'll notice how this highlights over here showing you what affects this, what this affects over here, okay? Even though I don't have any links or anything on these right now. But as you can see, this is my web pages. And if I were to make this more, I can make this more clear by going back here and changing this to something like home. Our game. So something like that, and you can see how this all kind of starts to fit together. Now, there's a way for us to actually access, let's say, like the logo or something like that, which we haven't really added yet. But in the previous videos, we did add images, and we put those images inside of our folder. So let's go ahead and add some images here. And we'll add two kinds of images. One where we put it in our folder, and one where we get it from a web page. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the website itself, which is the folder. And I'm going to paste an image in there called logo. Now over here I have this right here. That's a link. But down here I have this HTML5 logo. And I'm just going to go ahead and type logo.jpg. Now as I'm typing it, you notice it says here, it says logo, and it wants to finish it by saying JPEG. Well, because it recognizes that there's a logo.jpg inside of this folder. So it's guessing that's what you meant. And that's how well this helps you. Now look, when I put my mouse over this, it shows me the image. So that's how another way I know that I have the correct image that I'm using. So now I can go ahead and look at how that looks over here. I have my logo down here. I have my area down here. I have this HTML logo. This is a link that really doesn't go anywhere. As you can see here, this link doesn't go anywhere. You can make that go someplace else. Maybe I could just change this to as I'm typing it, you can see it updates here. Now on the menu here, that's from a previous video. We should know how to add a link here, link to these that actually leads to other web pages. But basically, we're done with our box model. We were able to use CSS, an external style sheet, to be able to manage our main documentation here, our main web page. And if I were to preview this again, you'll see it's exactly the same. We have images, we have links, and we have styles. So hopefully this was helpful. What we're going to do now is we're going to push a little bit further past this in the next video. We're not just going to do styles, because remember, we weren't going to do a ton in styles. We just needed at least up to this point an understanding of styles and external style sheets. I think it's a good time now to go into maybe some animated styles and some JavaScript. So maybe I'll see you guys in the next video. If not, make sure you subscribe to the videos I currently have. I'll see you next time. Bye.